that at present there is no justification of our believing that this message of Ahmadiyyat in representation of Islam would become ultimately victorious. If you judge it from the point of view of the massive task lying ahead. But in one way I can still convince you that it's not altogether illogical for us to hope. Because Islam, Ahmadiyyat claims to be a repeat of something in Islam like that in Judaism. When Christianity introduced a new phase. If you go back in time and confront the same question of finding any justification in the belief of Jesus and his followers that they would emerge victorious over the rest of the world, can you find one? None, except for one. That throughout the history of Christianity, despite its being the weakest in the beginning, and the opposition being so enormous that logically, if you feed these facts to a computer, Christianity should long have been wiped out in the very beginning. It did not. It was not. It continued to grow from strength to strength. As the opposition grew, so also Christianity did. And the smaller, the more minute the mill wanted it to grind, the larger appeared the particles. This is a sign of truth, and this is also a sign in the hope for the future. We have witnessed exactly the same thing happening in our case in the short history of 100 years. We have grown far more powerful in the world and were respected and recognized far more as an effector in the world than Christianity at the end of its first 100 years. Yet within 300 years, the whole thing was completely transformed. The whole, image of Christianity in Roman Empire, the whole Roman Empire became, bowed down to the message of Christianity. But as it happened then, so we believe it would happen now. It doesn't happen like sudden miracles or explosions, although it seems to have happened like that. The ideas change slowly and gradually with perseverant deliverance of message on the part of those who are weak yet remain loyal to the message, and at the cost of their own suffering, not at the cost of others. They adhere to the message with such suffering and patience as gradually creates a respect for them in the sight of those who persecute them. And gradually they begin to understand, out of the sympathy created by human nature, for a people who are completely without crime, who are the best people of the society, yet the society is treating them so wrongfully, so beastly, as to feed them to the beasts of the jungle, and enjoy that. These things always create reactions which set on motion the human thought, which makes the whole people ready for a revolution. But only they require a certain change at the top, some event to take place, like the acceptance of Christianity by the Roman Emperor at the end of 300 years. Then suddenly it was realized, as it was realized by him himself, that his own wife had become a Christian. And the whole people had practically become sympathetic to the cause. Had they not been so, they could not have accepted it in one grand scale landslide for Christianity. So this is the answer. Of course your question is valid, but with reference to the history of Christianity, religious history, and what we have observed recently in our case.
Do you feel there might be a distortion of the message? You can see it as the rise of Christianity became involved with the secular state. Your example of the Roman Empire is a good one.
There could be a distortion of the message, but if Christianity had been made by God to become the last eternal message for all mankind, then God would not have permitted it to be distorted as a valid currency. It became distorted after it had delivered its message and conquered the opposition to a degree. Then, in one area, the truth seemed to be overpowered again, but not everywhere. Because Jesus, according to us, migrated to the 10 lost tribes of Israel. You know, like the 10 lost sheep of the house of Israel is in his words. And he delivered the message so successfully that they remained loyal to the concept of unity, and they never entertained the idea of Trinity. That is why it becomes so difficult for the Western scholars to accept, despite their own findings, of the similarity between the Afghan people and the Kashmiris to the Jewish people earlier, that Jesus must have come here and delivered the message and converted them to his faith. So it is not true that the majority of the followers of Jesus became distorted or distorted forever. First of all, for the first 200 years at least, we find a stiff opposition continuously presented by the followers of Jesus who was trained by him against the Pauline attempts to introduce Christianity or to break away the ties of Jesus from the earlier Judaic faith. So they are still known as Ammonites or Nazarites. But why are they not found in such large number today is simply because they got absorbed in Islam. Because the difference between those Christians and the Islamic teaching was not very much. Jesus was presented by them as a prophet. They never believed in Jesus to be a son of God literally. So when another prophet came, and whose reference was also found in many ways in the Old Testament and New Testament, this is a historic fact, a large number of Unitarians, believers in the prophethood of God, Jesus Christ, became Muslims. The same happened in Afghanistan. Later on, the same happened in Kashmir. About Afghanistan, we have an evidence unearthed not by an Ahmadi scholar, but by an Englishman, a Christian Englishman, an Oxford scholar, who was sent by the University of Oxford to carry out research into the various Sufi tribes of, what's the name of the province? Herat. Herat is a province of Afghanistan close to Iran. And it is known that there are so many old Sufi tribes still existing there, with their well-defined entity. So this scholar was sent to Herat to investigate into the various such tribes and their specific beliefs. Now he has written a book which is published here by the Oxford University Press under the title Among the Dervishes. He had no idea of finding a sect there, which he found, and he was amazed to find. So deviating from his set-go research line, he mentions it in his book. He says, during my investigations, I came across a tribe which is called Musai. And his chief is Abba Yahya. Abba is a Jewish title, as you know well. And this tribe called itself Muslim Christians. So this is what attracted his attention. He was surprised. Why Muslim Christians? He inquired from the ordinary people, but they could not answer him satisfactorily. So they took him to the leader himself. He met him. And the story he told, he has related in his book entirely as he heard. And this is what supports the Ahmadiyya interpretation of what I'm telling you. He told this Christian scholar that what you believe to be the true Christianity is not true Christianity. It is not the Christianity of Jesus Christ. when he was attempted to be crucified,